Hello and welcome to a new edition of Valentine's Views here on the Big Blue View YouTube channel. I'm your host, Ed Valentine of Big Blue View. Please like, share, and subscribe to support the channel. Your New York Giants completed mandatory minicamp on Wednesday, which means their off-season program, 12 practices on the field, is now officially over. Giants will not be back together on the field until training camp starts. That is scheduled to happen on July 24th. I thought today that I'd go over some of the impressions from the spring, some of the things that we learned, maybe some of the question marks that we will still have entering training camp as the Giants get ready for the 2024 season. Let's start quickly with quarterback Daniel Jones. I think if you've been following along, you know that Jones has been on schedule in his rehab from the torn right ACL that he had in 2023, that Jones has competed throughout the spring in 7-on-7 work. Giants didn't do any 7-on-7 work in the mandatory minicamp, which sort of annoyed Jones a little bit. He admitted that he wasn't real happy about that. Brian Daboll admitted that he knew Jones wasn't really happy about that. But Daboll chose to do 11 on 11 for the benefit of the full roster in the 2 days of mandatory minicamp. Thing about Jones, couple of things quickly. Jones has moved pretty well, better than I thought he would at this point, pretty much 7 months or so out from surgery on that torn ACL. Insists that he's on target to be ready when training camp starts, and that he'll be ready to start the 2024 season. So it's been clear for a while that Jones will be ready to go. The thing I wanted to say about Jones is, and it's really just a personal impression, just a feeling that I have about Jones. I think there's a little edge to Jones this spring that I haven't seen in the past. There's a little attitude, maybe a little chip on his shoulder. He he won't admit it, but he is well aware of a lot of the things that people have said about him this offseason. He's well aware of the fact that there are a lot of people who think that Drew Lock is going to take his job at some point in 2024. He's aware of all of this chatter about the Giants being done with him. He's aware of just how seriously the Giants considered making a big move for a quarterback in the 2024 NFL draft. Jones, you can tell, you know, feels like he has something to prove, feels like he has something to show people in 2024. Now, is he capable of that? Can he do that? I don't know. But what I do think is, I do think that Jones is highly motivated coming into this season. The last time Jones was in what you might call a prove it season was 2022, the first year of the tenure of GM Joe Shane and Brian Daboll. That year, the Giants turned down the fifth year option on Jones' contract, made him basically play for his job in 2022, play for the right to stay. And of course, Jones ended up having the best year of his career in 2022, helping the Giants get to the playoffs, helping them win a playoff game, earning that 4-year, $160 million contract that so many people have scoffed at, considering the way that Jones played in 2023. But the last time, my point is simply this: the last time that Jones faced a prove it or move on kind of season in 2022, he rose to that challenge. He played very well. He stepped up, and you can only, as a Giants fan, you can only cross your fingers and hope that he can do that again. I mean, the reality of it is the Giants may very well have to move on from Jones after the 2024 season. But the other thing is, in my view, it's better for the franchise. It's better for the long-term build if Jones shows them that they already have their quarterback. If he shows them again that they can win with him and they can continue to build the roster around him and they don't need to start over with another quarterback. And again, can that happen? Will that happen? I don't know, but my overall point is that I think Daniel Jones has a little edge, and maybe that will be a good thing for the Giants in the 2024 season. Let's switch gears, talk a little bit about head coach Brian Daboll. We've talked a lot throughout the spring and written a lot about the idea that Daboll appears on track to be the offensive play caller in 2024. Daboll still won't come clean and say outright that he's going to call plays. I don't expect him to, to admit that until he absolutely has to. NFL coaches, they they sort of treat every decision like a state secret. They treat it like it's classified information. They'll give you the competitive advantage quote. Oh, it's a competitive advantage if I keep this to myself. It's a competitive advantage if I keep that piece of information out of the public eye. When it really doesn't matter to the opposing team, especially 4 months ahead of time. Doesn't make much difference. Does it really make a difference? If the teams on the Giants schedule know that Daboll's going to be calling plays instead of Mike Kafka, I personally don't think it makes a darn bit of difference. But NFL teams will tell you that it does. Will tell you that, oh, it's a, as I said, it's a competitive advantage, and I'm just not going to tell you that because it might give away something. I don't know what that something might be, but that seems to be how NFL teams feel. Anyway, the point with Daboll is, as he heads toward a season of calling the plays, a season where he's under some public pressure because of the way last year went, after winning coach of the year in 2022, last season, sort of went off the rails a little bit for the Giants. A lot of curious decisions, not enough wins, um, some temper tantrums on the sideline by Daboll, questions about his relationship with assistant coaches. Highlighted by the the very public and discordant, I guess I want to say, uh, exit by former defensive coordinator Wink Martindale. Um, Daboll's been different this spring, starting with the fact that he's lost a considerable amount of weight, and it's obvious, it's apparent, it's really great to see that Daboll looks much healthier than he did a year ago. And hopefully, when people feel better, hopefully, they perform better, they do their jobs better, and hopefully, losing some of that weight, feeling better, it is a good sign for Daboll in 2024. Dabes was asked if calling plays, if he does that this coming season, which I think I'd be very, very surprised at this point if he gives that job back to Mike Kafka, the offensive coordinator. He was asked if that might help some of the sideline issues that we saw last year with Daboll yelling at assistants and losing his temper and flipping a tablet at Daniel Jones and things like that. And he really didn't have an answer for that, but I think it's clear that it very well could. If he has the responsibility of calling plays on a, on a, of calling, the scheme of the plays on offense, then he's busy. He needs to be thinking about the next play. He needs to be thinking about the next series. He can't be in the ear or in the face of position coaches about certain things, about who's in the game, about why this guy didn't know an assignment, whatever it might be. I think that might be a good thing for Daboll. And we also know that between last year and this year, there was, beyond Martindale, there was some significant turnover on the Giants coaching staff. And something that I noticed this spring that I take as a good sign is, and maybe it has to do with Daboll calling plays, maybe it has to do with him just being happier and more comfortable with the people he's got on the staff right now. I don't know. But there has been absolutely no real screaming from Daboll during the practices that I've witnessed, at least in terms of, at least in terms of screaming at coaches. Last year, what I noticed a lot, and in retrospect, really should have been a warning sign that there were some issues. There might have been some discord on the coaching staff. A lot of the yelling that Brian Daboll did a year ago during practices that we saw in the spring and in the summer, a lot of that yelling wasn't directed at players. It was directed at coaches for not getting the right substitutions in, for not getting sub packages in quickly enough, for not having players ready when they needed to be ready so that the Giants could practice at a brisk enough pace. I haven't heard any of that this spring so far. That's a good sign. That's a good thing. And hopefully that continues throughout the summer. All right, another topic that we need to talk about is the offensive line. Of course, so much gnashing of teeth in the fan base about Evan Neal. So much gnashing of teeth about why Jermaine Illuminor's playing left guard and John Runyon's playing right guard, and all of that. And I've been criticized a little bit for for the fact that I've said to fans, you just need to let it go. You just need to let the Giants figure this out. And one thing that I will say, in terms of Jermaine Illuminor playing left guard, there's nobody in the fan base. There's nobody in the NFL who knows Jermaine Illuminor better than Carmen Brasillo, who has coached him since their days together. I think going all the way back to 2019 with the New England Patriots. Brasillo coached Illuminor in New England. He coached Illuminor in Las Vegas. They have immense respect for each other. You can tell just by the way that they speak about each other, and just by the fact that Illuminor came to New Jersey to play for Brasillo again. If Jermaine Illuminor couldn't play left guard, Carmen Brasillo wouldn't have him there. So I'm not going to worry about that. And in terms of Evan Neal and whether Illuminor or when Illuminor might move to right tackle to replace Evan Neal, again, there's been a lot of gnashing of teeth this spring, including some by myself, regarding Neal not getting on the practice field enough, not practicing at all in the final OTA that media saw, not practicing at all during the mandatory minicamp this week. The Giants to a man defended Neal during the week. Mike Kafka, Brian Daboll, Illuminor stepped up and defended Neal. We just have to wait and see. We know that the first 2 years haven't been good. We know that at some point, if it continues to not be good, the Giants have to pull the plug. Illuminor said the other day that he's got enough experience at right tackle that he's not worried about having to move there on short notice. He said he spent 2 full years really honing the technique. He said it won't be a problem for him if he has to move. And really, I think I've said this before, but I think the offensive line plan is crystal clear. I don't think it's a case of the Giants, moving guys around willy-nilly and not really having an idea of what they're doing, how they're doing it, why they're doing it, and where it will all lead. It's pretty clear. Neal will be the right tackle unless he shows either health wise or performance wise at some point, and I don't know when the quote unquote pull the plug date would be, unless Neal shows that that he just can't do it, that the Giants just don't feel comfortable with him over there. Illuminor goes to right tackle in that case, and then you have a competition. Aaron Stinney, who's got extensive experience at left guard, Josh Azudu, whose primary collegiate position was left guard. Neal played left guard at Alabama. Maybe Marcus McKethan, who's had a little bit of experience on both sides, could be part of that competition. But I think that's how the Giants see this. I think it's pretty clear that they see the smoothest path if they have to make a change to the line. The smoothest path would be moving Illuminor to the right guard and placing one of these interior offensive linemen who has experience at left guard in that spot. So I think we'll see how it all plays out, but I do think the Giants have a pretty clear, pretty straightforward plan in place. All right, one of the other things I wanted to talk about is the roster and the competitions and some of what we may have learned and some of what we still have to learn during the summer. If you read various roster rankings from national analysts, none of it has been very complimentary to the Giants. I think there was one roster ranking that I read, and I don't know I don't remember where it came from, NFL.com or ESPN or wherever it came from. I think the Giants were ranked with the 31st worst roster. In other words, only the Denver Broncos were ranked with a worse roster than the Giants out of the 32 NFL teams. Another ranking that I read had the Giants in the bottom tier, the bottom 4 or 5 rosters in the league. And I get it from a national perspective. I get it because Saquon Barkley's in Philadelphia. Xavier McKinney is in Green Bay. The quarterback situation is a big question mark because of Daniel Jones' health, especially to those who haven't seen him move around this spring, and to those who think he's just not a good quarterback to begin with. So I get it in a way, but the way that I look at the Giants roster, there are a lot of young players who are going to be asked to do key things for the Giants this year. I don't look at the Giants roster as, I'll use the word untalented. I look at the Giants roster in many places as unproven. Look on the offense. It's unproven on the offensive line simply because this group's never played together. John Runyon is a veteran player who's been good. Illuminor's been good. John Michael Schmitz should develop further in his second year. Andrew Thomas, when healthy, is one of the best left tackles in the NFL. It's just an unproven line that hasn't played together. We'll see, and we'll see what happens with Neal. We'll see what happens at right tackle. With Darren Waller retiring, the tight end group again is unproven in a way. Daniel Bellinger has shown to be an at least adequate player at tight end. The Giants have a couple of blocking tight ends on the roster. They have 4th round pick Theo Johnson, who has, shown some flashes in the summer or in the spring. So again, unproven, but with the possibility of being good. The wide receiver group, the Giants have sort of under the radar when you add Malik Neighbors to the group that they have. They've added 2nd round pick Wan'Dale Robinson in 2022. They added Jalen Hyatt in the 3rd round a year ago. Now they've got the number 1 guy in Malik Neighbors. They have Darius Slayton. They have a variety of other guys competing for the rest of the roster spots who have NFL experience and a couple of intriguing undrafted players as well. But So again, in a way, that's unproven. Malik Neighbors has never played an NFL snap. Jalen Hyatt has room to grow. Wan'Dale Robinson, largely because of injury, I don't think has played his best football yet in his first 2 years in the NFL. I think that perhaps by the end of the year, people will feel much differently about the Giants wide receiver group than they might feel right now. You look at running back, where the Giants are in a post Saquon Barkley era. At running back, behind Devin Singletary, they have a bunch of intriguing, young, unproven players. Eric Gray, Tyrone Tracy, Dante Miller. Uh, it really only takes one of those guys to step up and be a good complement to Devin Singletary for people by the end of the season to feel differently about the running back room than they do right now. Over on the defensive side of the ball, there are questions about cornerback. Is Cordale Flott going to be the answer? Could Trey Hawkins step up? Do the Giants need to go out and find a veteran? Will Drew Phillips, answer the bell and be the slot corner that the Giants hope he can be? On the defensive line, do they have enough depth? They have a lot of unproven players. Ryder Anderson, who was on their practice squad a year ago, who seems to be getting some first team reps this spring. Couple of undrafted free agents in Casey Rogers and Elijah Chapman, battling for roster spots. Couple of young players in Jordan Riley and DJ Davidson who could be in for bigger roles, asked to do more this year. Even Tay Banks, first round pick a year ago, will be asked to do more this year. He'll be asked to cover number one wide receivers more often than he was a year ago. He'll be asked to be the guy in the secondary. And I get the fact that these are all question marks, that these are all, well, we haven't seen it yet. These guys are unproven. But I think that if you get positive answers to whether or not these guys can step up and fill these roles, then people will feel much different about the Giants roster and about the state of the roster. And the Giants could have a better season than people anticipate at this point in time. Of course, there's the possibility that a lot of these guys, there's a possibility that they flop, that they don't get it done. Maybe Tay Banks can't handle number one wide receivers. Maybe they don't have enough depth at defensive tackle. Maybe none of the backup running backs that they have, can really be a trustworthy complement to Devin Singletary. We don't know, but I'm personally, I'm looking forward to seeing how many of these young players answer the bell, how many of them, you know, check the box as a yes, that I can be a good player. I can help the Giants be better. And that's kind of exciting, is to watch some of these young players develop, see who can help, who can't, and go from there. The Giants they're not the Eagles at this point. They're not the Chiefs. They're not in the Super Bowl conversation. They're a developing team trying to get there. Let's find out how many pieces they can add to their puzzle, in the 2024 season. I personally look forward to seeing, how many of these young players who haven't proven it yet can prove it in 2024 and show that they can be part of the Giants' future. So we'll get more answers to who will win various jobs when we get to training camp. And sometimes those answers change throughout the season. But I am personally looking forward to training camp, and we'll see. As I said, we'll see how some of those roster battles turn out. I think it could be a very intriguing, very entertaining training camp coming up here for the Giants in a few weeks. All right, Giants fans, thank you very, very much for listening. Please stay safe out there. Take care of each other, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.